Welcome, everybody, to our monthly town hall. Tonight, we've got a great presentation by one of our command pilots and board members, Eric Chadwick. We're going to get started in just a minute, but before we get started, uh, our executive director, Mary Hunter, would like to say a couple words.
Thank you, Sherry. And just thanks everyone again for joining us this evening, taking time away from your usual evening routine to learn more about our mission and cause and considering signing up as a volunteer with Angel Flight West. So really every day we have so many calls and people requesting this incredible transportation that you all and our volunteers provide. So we have a dream of really removing that barrier of transportation to access healthcare through our work. So thank you again for joining and learning more about how you can get involved, support, volunteer. Our team here is excellent resource and have just really so much that they can share. And we're really grateful again to Eric Chadwick, um, one of our top flying board members for sure, to share more of his personal experience. And just thank you again for being a part of this and being willing to learn more and offer your time, talent, and treasure towards this cause. It truly makes a difference for so many people every day. So thank you. Back to you, Sherry.
Thank you, Mary. So welcome. Uh, this is our agenda for the evening. We're going to do a little introduction to the mission operations team. We'll do a mission moment, talk about why we do what we do, share a little bit of volunteer recognition, and then we'll start with the volunteer session with Eric. So to get you started, this is the mission operations team. A few of them are here with us this evening. Myself, Alejandro, our operations manager, David, Nathan, and Ashton Thorne, our volunteer services coordinator. And then not here with us this evening because they had other obligations are Maddie Eichten, Senior Mission Operations Coordinator, Rochelle Matterall, and Logan Burley, Mission Operations Coordinators. If you are already flying missions or going to fly missions, this is the team that you'll be working with. And I promise you they will give you great customer service. Mission moment, for those of you that aren't familiar with the term, is it's about why we do what we do. So just a step back to remember, why we're all here, whether we're staff or board or volunteers, pilots, Earth Angels, whatever, we're all here for the same reason, and that is to help people. So um, Erwin and Rosalina, you can see them in the back seat there, peeking their heads out. And in the front seat, we have Bianca, who was completing her first Angel Flight mission there in Hawaii. And Erwin and Rosalina wrote to us, without Angel Flight West, it would be very difficult for me to see my specialist. I live on a small Hawaiian island with a population just below 8,000. We only have one commercial airline. Travel to Honolulu or Maui to see my doctors is very important. I have had to cancel appointments because of flight cancellations or flight delays. Angel flights have been my and my companion's lifesaver, and I wouldn't know how else we would have managed this all. We are forever grateful to Angel Flight West, the awesome staff manning the phones, emails, missions, and the best pilots. So that in a nutshell, folks, is why you want to be flying missions. And now I'll hand it over to David, who will do a little volunteer recognition.
Thanks, Sherry, and thanks everyone for joining us this evening. We've had a really good year so far. I wanted to take a moment just to look at some of the folks that have flown their first mission. So you can see the names here. Really excited about this new cohort, and we're excited for all the folks here that may be flying their first mission here in the future. So thanks again, and I'll pass it over to Ashton.
Thank you, David. And yeah, I'll mirror what David said. Thank you guys for all being here. Happy to share this time with you to take a look at our volunteer services stuff. So we have here volunteer recognition for Earth Angels who drove their first trips in 2026. So take a look at all of these new additions to our Earth Angel side of volunteer services, which really help to support the mission here at Angel Flight West.
Great. Thank you, guys. And now I'm going to introduce to you our speaker for this evening, AFW Command Pilot Eric Chadwick. He's also on our board of directors. He flies a TBM out of Camarillo. I can tell you it's very cool. I've flown in it several times, and it's a very nice ride. And I will leave the rest of it to Eric.
All right, thanks, Sherry, and thanks again to everyone for joining us tonight. Just to take a quick second, those volunteer recognition, those are really impressive slides. Lots and lots of names on there. So the team's been doing a great job, and hopefully many of you are here tonight to hear a little bit more about my experience flying missions and maybe answer some of your questions. But certainly encourage you to, if you haven't flown missions yet, to definitely get yourself on that list. It's definitely something you'll really love doing. So just as Sherry mentioned here, some highlights about me. I've got about 1,500 hours. I've flown a little over 100 missions for Angel Flight, some in a Cirrus, some in a TBM. And just going to walk through tonight, just some of the highlights. So what I will tell you, I've attended many of these sessions, and there's no way we can cover it all in one session. There are previous sessions with previous slides. There's some Q&A materials out there that Angel Flight maintains, and it's definitely worth exploring those as well. So feel free to ask your questions at the end. We'll cover what we can, but there really is a lot to try and get through. So let's start with why we volunteer. I think, in my opinion, we volunteer to make a difference. This is a way for us to give back. In my opinion, flying is a privilege, a very great privilege. And my goal is to share it with others where we can. If you look statistically, very few people in the United States or in the world are pilots. And our ability to fly airplanes is really pretty special, especially in the US. We have lots and lots of freedom to fly our airplanes. And it really is a skill. So we want to use our skills to make an impact, support individuals facing challenges. What you'll find in Angel Flight missions is they're all facing challenges of one sort or another. A lot of them, of course, are health related, but they're not all health related. There are oftentimes financial considerations, and that's why they're reaching out to Angel Flight for assistance. And this is a really unique opportunity to do that. One of the best parts about it, honestly, is you get to establish communications with passengers and, of course, fellow pilots. You really do want to think about it as a community. And we're going to talk about that a little bit as we go through here tonight. But it is another way to donate rather than, you can always make cash donations to support organizations, but this is a really unique way to give of your time, talent, aircraft, et cetera. And the last thing on here really is that, flying is what we're going to talk most about today. But we do have the Earth Angels. Definitely shout out to the Earth Angels, a very important part of what we do. We spend a lot of money every year on Ubers and Lyfts. So Earth Angels, where we can fill those missions with Earth Angels, are really, really important. And we value those a lot. And there are also opportunities, just a quick shout out on some new, what we call ground crew opportunities. You'll be hearing more about that. We talked a lot about that at our retreat a couple of weeks ago. But it's an exciting new way for people to volunteer and get involved. So with that, let's jump into the Angel Flight command pilot side. I'm going to turn this around a little bit and start with what I call the pilot stuff. And I think I do this really, we're going to get into a mission and communication and the flight and all of those types of things. But I would remind everyone, I guess, as I've learned through this process, the pilot stuff is still the most important part, right? Our safety record is impeccable. And part of the reason we get people to fly with us is because we have a great safety record, and we definitely want to keep that. And as we'll talk about, when you start adding missions and passengers and other constraints or outside influences, what you'll find is the pilot stuff sometimes has an ability to get distracted. So with that, let's prepare for every flight. I'm not a flight instructor. I'm not going to go through all of the preparation you need to do. But this is just something through my training. NW Craft was just an acronym. As you know, everything is an acronym in flying. But NOTAMs, weather, delays, runway links, et cetera, you can read that. But those are really important things to stop and think about before you ever get to the point of flying a passenger. And of course, the I Am Safe checklist, another acronym, another tool. There are many others. Use the ones that work for you. The point really is to use them because the piloting part is the most important of getting a passenger from start to finish. and the rest of it you'll find falls into place quite easily. So weight and balance is a big thing. I mention it here because you have to assume the passengers don't fully understand the implications of weight and balance. The team does a great job of prepping passengers. They have these conversations. Believe it or not, they have these conversations every single time about what it means to bring luggage and how much luggage you can bring, et cetera. But the average passenger has no idea what it means when you start putting it into an aircraft for weight and balance, what the flight envelope looks like, et cetera. So use caution in this. Talk to your passengers. Talk to them exactly about what they're bringing and how it's going to impact your aircraft, et cetera. And also, really important, consider the connecting legs because the next airplane, whether it's a connecting leg on the same leg mission or whether it's a return flight, you really have no idea who's flying that. So always don't, if you have a big airplane, don't tell them to bring whatever they want to because the next one might be a small airplane and it has a real impact on that. The other items, kind of what I mentioned before, passengers add a lot of pressure. And you really have to force yourself not to rush. I would remind everyone, use checklists. That is by far the best tool you have. You should use them on every flight, but especially when you've got passengers and other distractions. You're going to have passengers sitting in the back of the airplane, waiting for you to start up, waiting for you to taxi. Now you're sitting at the hold short line and they're impatiently waiting, et cetera. There's all kinds of these things that we take for granted, but you really have to be able to push those out of your mind and again, focus on the pilot stuff. The more you can communicate with passengers, the better. Explain all aspects that you can think of. The obvious things are things like takeoff, landing, what it's going to feel like, odd sounds that they're going to hear. I have retractable gear in my aircraft, and every time you drop it, the first thing they do is kind of open their eyes real bright. So ahead of time, I usually say, well, the noise you're going to hear is the gear coming down. It's just little things like that that try and communicate and make them at ease. Things like turbulence, of course, altitude, make sure they don't feel lightheaded, those types of things. Safety, as I mentioned, but respect the weather. Really stay within your personal minimums. If you're a newer pilot, respect those minimums. As you develop, you will increase those minimums. You'll increase the envelope, be able to fly in different weather, different missions, et cetera. But definitely respect the weather in particular. This time of year, I've flown twice in the last month up to the Northwest. And things like precipitation and icing and all those things that go along with it, really, really important. And if the weather's a no-go, the weather's a no-go. And I will tell you, the Angel Flight West will stand behind you 100% if you need to cancel a mission for weather purposes or frankly, any other purpose, like a mechanical or something. But they will never ask you to fly in weather that isn't safe. So just know that they've got your back, and they will handle a lot of those communications with the passengers and help to explain those issues. And of course, ensure proper equipment for passengers. I'm embarrassed to tell you, I have flown one flight where I showed up for the mission and did not have the headset in the back that I thought I had in the back. Thankfully, it was like a 90 nautical mile flight, and it didn't take very long. But always just make sure you check through that equipment, make sure you've got everything, headsets and anything else that you need. All right, so let's get into the mission side. Finding a mission. One of the big challenges, I think, is that we rely on pilots wanting to fly missions and then going and logging into the website and finding missions, requesting those missions, and all the things that go along with that. It's a lot of that comes from the pilot side of the equation. So one of the things I suggest is visit the mission website or the mobile app. The mobile app's great as well, iPad, phone, but the mission website frequently. Filter it the way you like it, scroll through it, just kind of get a feel for how missions are coming about, how many there are, where they're going, the destinations, et cetera. And one of the things I would suggest is set a recurring calendar item. We all use calendars in our office for our work days. Just set a reminder once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever the frequency that fits you. If it's not the right time, you can always just delay that reminder and move on to the next one. But it is a nice way to remind yourself to, hey, I should go check out the mission list. I haven't been there in a few days. I haven't been there since last week. And there might be something really interesting in there for me. Also, set your pilot preferences. the Angel Flight West team has worked really, really hard to take everything I just said about relying heavily on the pilot and making it easier by providing tools to prompt you or to help narrow down the set of missions that are applicable to you and help give you information via email or text, et cetera, to you know reduce the workload, if you will, on finding missions. So pilot preferences are a really important part of that. You can set them in the website under your profile. They have to do with what days you can fly, how much weight you can take, how many passengers you prefer, all those types of things. But they really do help. And then you'll start getting these communications that, again, make it easier to find missions. Once you've found a mission, or you filter through this list, Angel Flight really wants you to request missions as early as possible. And I know personally, I have done a lot of last minute missions. I've found them and requested them last minute. But what you'll find over time is that there's a lot of flexibility in that. So if you're worried about something coming up, Angel Flight would rather have you signed up and have to change it later if there's, again, mechanical or some other issue, weather related, than not have you signed up at all. And if you're not familiar, we have the Access for All Fund, which is a passenger assistance fund that helps Angel Flight to provide backup for missions, notably for weather. But you'll see these when you go into the website and sign up that, hey, this mission is backed up with the Access for All Fund or for weather purposes, et cetera. So feel free to go ahead and sign up for those missions. And if the weather ends up canceling the mission, Angel Flight West has taken the steps necessary to back it up. They have talked to the passengers about backup. You are not on the hook for that cancellation. And they, again, it's much better to have you on the list, signed up for a flight that you think you can do. And then if something ends up happening, we can change that. It's much more difficult for Angel Flight West to scramble the day before trying to fill flights because by that point, people's calendars have gotten busy. It's just a bit of a rat race to try and get through the communications necessary to do that. So sign up early, sign up often, of course, but it really does help to be on that list, and the staff will communicate with you if anything changes. I'm going to just mention briefly the available versus available beta because most of you probably can't see this. I realize that kind of after the fact, but the only thing I want to mention is the website is really designed around a passenger itinerary. And one of the things we've been working on as a beta test is more of a mission focused list. And that's been in testing, it's been in development, and I think we're going to make progress on that on the website as well to give you more ways to be able to filter missions. One of the things you'll find is the passenger focused itineraries are a little bit difficult to search by date. So I tend to scroll because sometimes if you just assume they're all in date order, you might actually miss some missions that are a little bit further down the list. The beta version is a mission focus and it's a much easier to filter by date, which works better for me because I'm flying more specific dates rather than locations. So it's something we're working on, and I guess stay tuned on that because I think they're always working on improvements to the website, the mobile app, but the goal here is to make it as easy as possible for you. So if there are challenges along the way, pass those along. Email the team and let them know how things are working for you or not working for you in that case. And lastly, consider combining legs if your equipment allows it. I know this isn't for everyone. Again, as I mentioned, I used to fly a Cirrus, and even in the Cirrus, I would try to combine two legs if I could. If it was within a 2-hour flight, combine a couple legs up and skip that middle leg. It's just better for, frankly, it's easier to fill missions. It's better for the passenger experience. And frankly, it was better for me as well as a pilot. But again, just kind of equipment specific. But if that's something that your equipment allows you to do, please consider doing that. All right. So once you've found a mission, communication is really important. You want to contact the passenger soon after the mission assignment. What you'll find is passengers are very anxious about their missions, and of course, sometimes we really are within a day or two, and they've got appointments to make, and they're concerned about whether it's going to get filled or not. Same with their return missions. If you have a return mission, but it's not for 4 or 5 more days, but you've taken it and it's been assigned to you, go ahead and reach out because those passengers really want to know that their trips are taken care of. And it also saves the staff a lot of time because the passengers aren't reaching out to them to confirm and chase these things down. So It's really important to communicate with those passengers. Be a little careful with your lingo. The word FBO makes a lot of sense to us. Most of the passengers I've dealt with have no idea what an FBO is. So don't tell them, "Hey, meet me at the FBO." You explain what an FBO is. Here's the building. Here's the address that we have on the itinerary. But just lingo in general, as pilots, we tend to throw it around casually, but just know that they probably don't know exactly what you're talking about. The other thing, contact connecting pilots. Again, this is more for multi-mission legs, but oftentimes I do have these, and a lot of times I'll reach out to the other pilot first to understand some of their constraints and flight challenges. I just had a mission over the weekend. I did exactly this because I was flying up into the Northwest. We were dealing with weather. So I just reached out by text, said, "Hey, any constraints, any timing? Is it better in the morning for weather, better in the afternoon?" It's just a quick it took no more than 2 minutes to get that done, and then I was able to reach out to the passenger and try and coordinate those things. Doesn't always work, but it does give you some info if you do have one of those connecting flights, or you're meeting an Earth Angel or something of that nature for passenger pickup. And then lastly, I always like to ask questions that help me and them. So as you're talking to them, initial contact, have they ever flown a small aircraft? Yes, no, and based on that answer, maybe some other things to talk about, what it means, the safety of it, some of the other implications of being around the airport. If they're going to meet you at an FBO or a location, can they park a car there? Those types of things, and you might help assist them with reaching out and making sure with the FBO they can do something like that. But just ask questions that really help to inform them, but also inform you and let you know what's coming in advance. Advise on things like food and drink in your aircraft. Everyone can set their own rules on that, but it is helpful to know. And of course, remind them there's no restroom available on most any of the airplanes we're going to fly. So those are important things. You'll remind them, of course, when you pick them up on that restroom break, but it is important to tell them in advance if you can. Other things is agreeing on a meeting time and location. Be very specific. The passengers are going to get copies of the itinerary, but you really shouldn't assume that they have it in front of them. You shouldn't assume that they've even checked their email. So go over those details. Say, we are meeting at Sky Service FBO, which is the location on the airport. Here's the address. Make sure they have the right one. And then just kind of work through those details to make sure that none of those are a problem. Estimate the arrival time so that they can coordinate ground transportation at their destination. This is something they really do appreciate. They almost always have a ride at the other end, whether it's an Earth Angel, whether it's a friend picking them up. Of course, it could be Uber or Lyft as well, but to the extent you can give them information about flight time and what time you'll be arriving, et cetera, they're oftentimes in the back before takeoff texting their friend to pick them up. So that's really helpful for them. They really appreciate it. If you're flying an empty leg, which a lot of times we are, right? We're flying to a different location than our home airport to pick them up. Be sure you arrive with plenty of time to do everything you need to do. So parking, fuel, settle up your bill, all those things. My goal is to have the passengers not be waiting on me. I want to be done with all that stuff. I'm sitting in the lobby. I can greet them. I can help them with their luggage, all those types of things. But I don't want them sitting around waiting on me because it just extends what could be an otherwise long day of travel for them anyhow. So again, just focus on the passengers' needs in that regard and try and get ahead of all those things. I always encourage questions, always remind them that they can email or text me. They have that information on the itinerary, but when I call them, I just remind them that they can call me on my cell or they can text me. Text is a great tool. Not all of our passengers are comfortable with that. But that's what I encourage. It's just so efficient and you can really use it right up to the day of. And lastly, on this part, I put protect your airplane, and this comes from experience. You'll find these things through experience. Be really careful. Like in the Cirrus, when you board a Cirrus, the flap is in a retracted position is right there where their foot is going to be right next to. And it's not unusual for someone to put one foot on the pad where they're supposed to, and the other foot over here on the wing, and you certainly don't want it on the flap. So little stuff like that, right? Just offer them instruction, maybe demonstrate to them how to do it, assist them, and always be there when they load and unload. Don't just assume that they know how to do it safely, both for their own safety, but also again for your airplane. they step on that flap, you might be on the ground. You might not be flying at that point because you're AOG at that point. So um, just be aware of those types of things and communicate again. I put this under communication because a lot of it is really communicating with the passengers about how these things work and how to be safe. All right, so now we've got a mission and everything. We've communicated with the passenger. We're ready to go flying. I definitely say I realize not all pilots are IFR, and there's nothing wrong with that. We fly a lot of VFR missions. Sometimes flying VFR is more efficient than flying IFR. So I always suggest you fly IFR or use VFR flight following. Um, Big proponent of VFR flight following, whether I have passengers on board or not. You have ATC in your ear. It's another layer of safety in terms of your own needs, in terms of traffic, all those types of things. So highly encourage you, if you're not comfortable with this, get with someone who is and practice it because it really is a valuable tool. One of the common questions we get is the AFW call sign. All of you as registered command pilots have a call sign that's unique to you. Just remember that two important things. One is that call sign doesn't do any good if you don't program it in your transponder and file it on your flight plan. So if you file a flight plan with an AFW call sign, your transponder needs to match it. And when you call up ATC, you use that call sign, Angel Flight 7545. That's how you use it throughout that ATC communication. Keep in mind, however, that you can only use that call sign on the legs that have passengers on board. So again, if you've got an initial positioning leg where you got to go to a different airport, you can't use it. You pick up the passenger, you can use it, you file accordingly, you change your transponder, you get finished and you need to fly home, you change it back. So there's a lot of things to do there. Again, setting reminders might be a good thing to do. But you don't want to take off with your transponder uh, beacon with Angel Flight 7545 when your tail number is now going to be used for everything else. It just causes a lot of problems, and ATC is a little unhappy about it. So again, we want to be able to keep using the Angel Flight call sign, and we encourage you to use it when you can. If you don't know how to program your transponder, I certainly didn't when I had my Cirrus, call your shop. So wherever you get your oil changes done or wherever your avionics mechanic is, et cetera, there in my airplane, at least, they had to go in and change a setting so that I could program it. From then on, I'm able to manually program it in the avionics, but there was a change that needed to happen in order to make that possible. So check with your mechanics. They are very familiar with these types of things. Probably won't be a big issue to do that. Make time for a thorough pre-flight with passengers. Really, it's again just talking through the various things, ingress, egress considerations, how to operate the seat belts. It sounds silly, but every airplane is a little different. Commercial airlines pretty basic, right? But not all of our aircraft are the same as that. Sterile cockpit, really important. I usually tell them I'll hold up my hand to indicate that I need them to not talk to me or not ask questions, etc. Inevitably, on my mission on Sunday, we were 200 feet above the ground landing, and the guy's asking something about the stuff out the window. So you just simply put your hand up. They get it. It's just a reminder. They're not bothered by it. They're not offended by it. It's just they have to be reminded about these things. But definitely respect sterile cockpit. Again, the pilot stuff is really important. And lastly, emergency procedures. If you have an emergency exit door or frankly, just your regular door, tell them how to open the thing. If you have oxygen in your aircraft, tell them how the oxygen works, where it's located, and just explain those things and how they're going to work. It really does set their mind at ease, but more importantly, it's again that safety item, and it's going to be safer for you. If you really do have an emergency, the last thing you want is your passengers yelling out questions about how to grab the oxygen mask or how to open the door or things of that nature. So cover all that stuff ahead of time. Take the time on the ramp to do that. It really goes a long way. Last side on this slide here, consider carrying airsick bags. I have actually heard this a lot where I don't want to fly Angel flights because passengers might get sick. Passengers have chemo, they don't feel well, etc. I've flown over 100 missions. I've never had a single issue. I'm not saying passengers haven't felt poorly and definitely tired and those types of things. I've never had any issues with that, but I'm prepared. I do carry airsick bags. I carry baby wipes, oftentimes some bottled water. Blankets in my aircraft in particular are very important. It's cold at higher altitudes. But again, I'm just trying to take care of myself, take care of the airplane, and take care of them at the same time. So just some common sense items that if you put yourself in their shoes, maybe a small pillow. Again, a lot of them are coming from treatment. They're tired. A lot of times they'll sleep all the way through the flight anyhow. I do my best just to make them comfortable, but also, again, protecting yourself and your aircraft. This is kind of a broad one. Read the room, be aware of your passengers. This is a big one, but I think it's really important to pay attention to your passengers from start to finish. You're going to notice things. You'll notice their mobility, and that's going to help determine how you load and unload the aircraft. Make sure they're comfortable, relaxed. Ensure that ramp safety. Moving aircraft, they're not familiar with that. Be very careful with spinning props, things of that nature. So I won't explain all of these items here. You can read them, but again, the focus is on the passenger here. The focus is on safety, and the more you're aware and reading the room as you go, the better it's going to be for everything. I mentioned passengers sleeping. Other passengers will share their entire life stories during the flight. You're going to get passengers of all kinds, and it's great. It's part of the best. One of the best things about it is the different types of people you meet. Um, Personally, I engage in conversations that they're comfortable with. I don't ever pry about why they're flying, what their illness is, etc. Oftentimes, they will volunteer that information, and it leads to a conversation. But other times, you can just tell that they're tired, and I encourage them to rest. I say you don't need to entertain me. I'm going to fly the aircraft. If it's better for you to rest and sleep through this flight, that's the fastest way to travel. So again, just kind of be in tune with what those are, and you can decide how you want to interact with that. In my aircraft, I can disable ATC comms for the passengers separately. A lot of aircraft you can do that. Even in my Cirrus, the front and back seats are quite close, but you can take those comms off on the audio panel quite easily. So again, learn how to do that. It's oftentimes appreciated. Others want to hear all ATC communications. So again, just kind of read the room and go from there. And then kind of a funny one, I mentioned at the bottom, really because it caught me off guard the first time it happened to me, but consider social media and your desired exposure. I found out after the fact that the one of my passengers in the back seat was Facebook living our takeoff. And I saw it on Facebook later. Here we are, the back of my head and the aircraft taking off. That's what we got. But just know that social media is everywhere. And again, it's going to vary a lot by passengers, but you might get friend requests. You might, following passengers reaching out to follow you. They'll Facebook Live and they'll tag you, things of that nature. So I think it's just important. I just mentioned it so you know about it. You can't control social media necessarily, but you can be prepared for that, and you can kind of consider your own comfort level. If you think, if they're taking if any of that comes up in their friend request, you can certainly deny them. You could text them and say, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. I don't do a lot on social media, so or you can just leave it alone." But just kind of be aware. We do live in a world of social media, and it caught me off guard a little bit the first time I realized that I was out there as a command pilot. So. All right, so now we've arrived. Just a few quick things here. Most of this is pretty obvious. I like to inform the FBO ahead of time that I'm an Angel flight. I call them ahead of time, not on the radio. I just call them on the phone ahead of time. I'm coming, get on the reservations. I'm an Angel flight. Hopefully, I can park up front, reduce the amount of travel for my passengers walking across the ramp. If there's a lot of luggage or if there's large luggage, I've traveled with people that have little scooters, luggage racks, those types of things. The FBOs are really, really helpful if they know in advance. They're oftentimes set up for it. They'll bring the luggage carts. Oftentimes they have passenger carts, whether it's a golf cart or an actual bigger passenger cart. All you got to do is request it, and again, do it in advance. I always like to escort my passengers from all the way to the finish, whether it's the FBO. Sometimes there's a car in the parking lot. We go all the way out to the car, help them with their luggage, their mobility, help them navigate the FBO. They've never been there before, most likely. So where are the restrooms? What are all these snacks laying around? Can I take some of those? Just little things about being pilots and the life of an FBO in effect. And then I usually always wait with them if there's ground transportation not available. So if they've called an Uber or Lyft, hey, I'm just hanging out anyhow. They're probably fueling my aircraft. I got to use the restroom, things of that nature. I'm in no rush. So I like to wait with them, see them off, make sure everything's okay, and go from there. I mentioned here, consider donating ground transportation. It's actually pretty easy to donate Uber and Lyft. It's like you just request a flight or a ride for other people. Now, my only caveat to this is Angel Flight will know in advance whether they have ground transportation. So this is not an expectation. You don't have to do things like this, but it's just another way that if you're familiar with how to do it and you know they need ground transportation, or if you get someplace and their ground transportation changes last minute, it's an option for you to do as well. But again, Angel Flight always has this stuff lined up ahead of time and they know what the transportation is. It's really more in the case of things change, or you can reach out to the staff and let them know you'd like to donate in this fashion. It's just another way to do it. And then lastly, some passengers openly express thanks, others do not. I've had some passengers, I think you could say, just borderline, just really bottled up and really not sure whether they're supposed to be accepting this help or not. Not sure how to handle it. Maybe socially, not quite sure how to handle it. Don't read anything into that. Just know that you've done a really great thing being a passenger or flying a passenger, and the thanks is really part of your own, your own gratitude for being able to fly and being able to help someone else. So don't take it personally. You'll find every kind, and it doesn't necessarily mean they didn't appreciate it. It just means oftentimes there's a lot going on in their minds. They're dealing with a lot. This airplane travel thing is new to them, right? And it's confusing and exciting and all those things. So just take it for what it is. So that's about it. A couple final thoughts. I would suggest to everyone, embrace the experience. Enjoy your passengers. They're people. They're oftentimes really interesting people, really interesting backgrounds. I really encourage you to socialize with the connecting pilots and be part of the community. There's a lot of Angel Flight West events. Some of them are fly-ins. Some of them are like the Endeavor Awards or the golf tournament or things of that nature. There are lots of ways to socialize with other pilots, but one of the best ways is just sitting in the FBO when you're waiting there. One of the best things, we fly a lot of camp missions, and when you show up for camp missions, all the pilots are there at the same time, and all the kids are there at the same time, and you really have an opportunity to just, it's hangar talk in effect, but at the FBO. So embrace that. It's really one of the best parts about it. Follow the mission operations and volunteer services team. Get to know these coordinators. They really are amazing people. They do amazing work. They are looking out for you. They're looking out for the passengers. And the more you know them, the better. You'll have a one-on-one personal conversation. You'll know them by first name. It really does go a long way to making, again, the experience as much as anything. It's just so much better when you make it a bit of a social experience. And then oftentimes expand the mission in an overnight trip. We fly sometimes, for example, out of Boise. The wife and I will fly up on a Saturday, spend the day in Boise, spend the night. We'll fly passengers home on Sunday, things of that nature. I do note here, and you can check back with the team, but you need to be an AFW volunteer to do all of these things. It's a really easy thing to do. You don't have to be a pilot, but you do need to just make sure Angel Flight West has everything cleared. Don't ever get on an airplane with someone that doesn't have a waiver. That's really important for you as a pilot. It's really important for Angel Flight West. So there are some procedural things in the background, but they're not difficult to achieve. Every mission is an opportunity to fly. Frankly, this is as much selfish for me. I love flying. Angel Flight West gives me a reason to fly, an opportunity to fly to new locations, sometimes take overnight trips, etc. So I enjoy the flying. I also take a lot of pride in helping others. And then last thing, recruit other pilots, volunteers, and passengers. Tell your passengers to tell people how they got there. They love, oftentimes the passengers when they get off, they'll want to know how, they thank you. How can I thank the organization, et cetera? And what I tell them is the best thing you can do for us is spread the word. You can continue to fly with us. You can continue to spread the word with your healthcare providers, with your friends, other people you meet in the hospital when you're doing treatment, all those types of things. So definitely encourage them to spread the word about Angel Flight West and encourage other people to fly. So that's all I had prepared. Hopefully there's some questions, but anything we didn't cover, feel free to ask.
Feel free to raise your hand, literally. Raise the little hand icon on your computer if you want, or if nobody else is speaking, just shout out your question if you have one. Eric was very thorough.
Sherry, one other thing, because I just saw my wing leader, his picture up here. You all have wing leaders, and they're a great resource for you as well. So the team, of course, at Angel Flight West, but every area does have a wing leader. They're there to support you. They're there to help you get involved in the community aspect, volunteer, things of that nature. So you all have those. Make sure you know who those are and reach out to them.
While I was joking about Eric being very prepared, he certainly was. That was a really great briefing. Eric, you covered everything as well as any coordinator could, and um, certainly appreciate all that you do for Angel Flight. Thank you so much for your help.
Yeah,
Looks like we might have a question in the chat there. Well, Ace has a comment there about how he sets his flaps on the Cirrus that are so they're less likely to get stepped on.
that's a great
So,
idea. Definitely a
Yeah,
great idea. Set them
I
to
set them at
50%.
50%, and then they're already set for takeoff.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
They
And
won't get stepped on.
I also put a link. There's a three-step step ladder you can get on Amazon for $40 that slides right over the step of the Cirrus. So it gives people 4 steps up to the wing instead of 2, and makes it easier for them to get out, in and out. And you've probably already noticed that unlike most airplanes, it's easier for people to get in the back seat of the Cirrus than the front, because they can just step right in and sit down. And when they get in the front, sometimes it's hard to get that last foot in.
thanks, Ace. Uh, Garrett asks, how can new pilots get in contact with the local wing? For example, are there Slack or Discord channels to discuss? Um, we do not have any of those right now, except for in the Utah wing. They have a Slack channel that they've started. It is something that is discussed on a frequent basis. So, Garrett, if that's something that you're interested in talking to, one of the David, will you drop volunteer info into the chat, please? David is going to drop an email address into the chat there that you can copy and send an email to him, and we can help you answer some questions about that. And anybody else? Any questions, comments?
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Um, I, I've I've always been a little reticent to use the Angel Flight call sign, just because I um, haven't done it before and don't know. I mean, is there anything I need to do other than get it programmed um, into my transponder? Do I have to inform anybody or anything like that?
So if you're filing IFR, you have to file with that call sign. And I don't if you use I use ForeFlight. When you pull up ForeFlight file plan, you're going to have your default aircraft in there. There is another field, however, for call sign, and that's where you can put it so that it gets filed with your flight plan. Other than that, just use it. And that's probably the hardest thing for me is to stop saying my tail number and say Angel Flight 7545. But that's exactly what you do. You'll have a 4-digit code like mine, 7545, and you just use Angel Flight ahead of it. ATC hears this all the time. They're very familiar with it. They like it. I think you do. I don't want to see you get priority, but you'll probably, they'll lean in your direction for sure. So other than that, really the trick is to program that transponder. Just know how to do that quickly, know how to undo it. But otherwise, no, you just use it. And again, if you're not filing IFR, and you're going to fly VFR. If you have your transponder set to your Angel Flight code, that's what's going to broadcast. So when you call it for VFR flight following, Angel Flight 7545 is what they're going to see. They're not going to know necessarily your tail number. So just know that whatever your transponder pushes out, that's what you use for ATC communications. And then when you switch it back to your tail number, that's what you'll use. Again, the hardest part is just remembering not to use the other one.
Thanks.
Dan asks, is it possible to be a safety pilot to gain experience?
Well, we've had historically a mission assistant program that kind of fell by the wayside a little bit during COVID, became very difficult. I personally would love to do more of this. I've kind of made it a bit of a goal because one, a lot of times a mission assistant has to do with aircraft weight and balance, right? If we're taking two or three passengers, a lot of times we don't have the weight and balance to add someone, or they're not in the right location, et cetera. I happen to have the privilege of having an aircraft that has a lot of weight and balance, and my goal is to get more people up flying, whether it's a new pilot that hasn't met their hours yet. Maybe it's a pilot that just got oriented that wants to see the things in action, et cetera. So if you have those, I'm going to speak for Sherry here, but if you have that interest, communicate it to the team. I'm going to try and do a better job of making myself available for those types. But I think we've also seen this recently where the team sent out an email and said, "Hey, I have someone that wants to be a mission assistant. Anyone interested?" And the flip side is a command pilot will email the team and said, "Hey, I will take a mission assistant. Anyone interested?" So it's not as official as it once was, but I think there's hope that we can continue to utilize that maybe a little less formally, but get people up flying and get people on missions and get them exposed to this. Did I miss anything, Sherry?
No, you did not. Thank you. That's perfect answer there.
Jeremy,
Vincent, go ahead, Jeff.
I just wanted to add one other thing with the call sign. This was a first for me, but when I was getting flight following, I get the clearance on the ground, and I always, rather than the tail number, obviously I call in as Angel Flight 7328. And this was a first, but the person on the ground did not know what Angel Flight was. Wanted the full sign. So just prepare to, if that ever happens to you, that you would have to say November Golf Foxtrot 7328. So that was a first for me, but maybe it will happen to you. Who knows?
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Question from Vincent. When you sign up as a command pilot for a flight, the expectation is that you personally contact the passenger promptly, correct?
Correct. You as the pilot will make all those arrangements. You'll reach out to the passenger. You'll review the itinerary. You'll kind of walk through all the details of, again, just kind of confirming how many passengers, what they're bringing, any weight limitations, things of that nature. You'll talk through all of that pre-flight stuff with them. The staff's there to help you, and we have had those instances. For example, we've had some language barriers. I have flown passengers that speak only Spanish, and I don't speak any Spanish. They coordinate those things. There's ways to help on the ground, et cetera. So that's just one example, but the staff is there to support you, and will help to clarify anything. If you run into any problems or pushback on things like luggage or the like, the staff's there to support you, and we'll definitely do that. But aside from that, what you'll find is you as pilot in command need to be dealing with all the pre-flight nature and all the aspects of bringing passengers on board.
Thank you. Robert asks, you mentioned everyone has an Angel Flight call sign. Where do I find that? And how difficult is it to change the call sign once the system has been unlocked? I'm going to let Eric answer the second question, but David, do you know off the top of your head where it is in their profile when they're logged into VPoints?
Yeah. So we started printing it on the back of everyone's badge. So, but Robert, I can send out your call sign to you, and we can get you a new badge. It looks like you've been with us a little bit, so we appreciate that.
The other thing I'll mention is every itinerary that you receive, mission itinerary, includes the pilot details at the bottom, including their tail number and including their Angel Flight number. So every itinerary I get has my 7545 number on it. So once you're flying missions, you won't have trouble finding it. Again, once you've signed up for that. To your second question, it's really easy. Again, in the Cirrus, it was a G1000 NXI. It's literally on the PFD, and you can click in and use the knobs to select each field and change it over, push enter, good to go. Once you get used to doing it, it takes you 10 seconds to switch it back and forth. So it's really about practicing. Get it unlocked first, sit around and practice and change it to different call signs so you know exactly how which knobs, inner, outer, those types of things. But it's really not difficult. Other avionics, I can't promise you it's as easy. I don't have experience with that. But again, your mechanic can help you learn how to do that pretty quickly.
And John, thank you for that fact. I knew it was there somewhere. I just couldn't remember where. So appreciate that comment. Okay. Well, thank you again, everybody. Thank you to Eric. It was a great presentation. Really appreciate the time and effort that you put into it. And we appreciate everybody being here. We know it is dinner time for many of you. And so we appreciate your time here. The next town hall will be in March. It will be a safety town hall given by Alexi, who is one of our safety officers. And if you haven't heard one of his safety presentations, I suggest that you join. He really does a great job. He's a longtime United Airlines pilot, also is one of their major safety officers there for United Airlines. So he's got a lot of experience and can be quite helpful. And then we will have one in April, which will be volunteer appreciation. So uh, start thinking about uh, volunteer experiences that you have had that you are appreciative about. You heard Eric talk about how he enjoys doing these, and during that April town hall, we'll love sharing experiences with each other, giving thanks uh, to all of our volunteers. Douglas, I think a lot of people wish they had the TBM, so I don't think that's an unusual comment. So, uh, but for those of you that are new and thinking about becoming a mission pilot, please know that the bulk of our missions are done in your smaller single engine, 4-seat airplanes, 6-seat airplanes, and our passengers love flying in them all. So as pilots, you envy the other airplane, but the passengers appreciate all of their rides. So once again, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we will see you in March. Eric, will you stick behind a moment, please?
Yep, sure. Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
And Sherry, I have a question.